So I asked you to watch a short YouTube video about the recent allegations of Paula Deen's racism. Um, and one of the questions that I want you to think about is, if we count racism as an evil, and I do, I'll ask you to give me that assumption, at least for the purposes of our discussion today. If that is an evil action, how do we explain it in someone like Paula Deen? The two ways that we have talked about evil so far this summer, neither of them really seems adequate to me. Supernatural evil. I just find myself struggling with the idea that Paula Deen's racism is caused by some kind of a demon or devil out there that's making her do it. That just doesn't quite add up for me. Similarly, I'm having trouble with the idea that she is what Simon Baron Cohen would call 0 degrees negative in terms of empathy. From what I know about Paula Deen, she's able to have empathy. She just failed to do it in this particular case. So I'm left looking for something else that helps us to explain it. And the best answer that I can come up with, and this is a term that others have used as well, is that what we're seeing here is an example of systemic evil. So we need to unpack that term and figure out exactly what it means. The first thing that I would call your attention to is the root of this word, system. So the idea here is that this is an evil that is caused not by supernatural forces and not by individuals who have some kind of moral failing due to either biology or genetics or some kind of psychological condition. Instead, this is evil that is built into the very fabric of our culture. And if you think back about the history of racism in the U.S., particularly with slavery, you can see how this works. How is it that we allowed slavery in the United States for so long? And I think the answer is that this was an accepted social arrangement within our culture. And people simply didn't question it. This is an example of a term that you should be familiar with, although it's often misused, ideology, which, roughly speaking, it's a set of ideas and assumptions. Sometimes they're conscious, but often they're not, that lead us to act in certain ways. And to help illustrate this, I want to give you an example here. So let's say I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to buy this shirt. This shirt costs $7.99 at Target. My question for you to think about, I ask you to pause the video and really think about this for just a minute. What are the assumptions that go into the purchase that I'm making about how the system works and how the system should work? And what are the unasked questions and why are they unasked? So think about that for just a moment. Okay, so here's how I would answer this question. The assumptions. My assumption is that the way that our system works, if I want to buy something, I go to the store and purchase it. I have to have enough money, but as long as I've got enough cash or a credit card, I walk in, I pick up what I want, I take it to the cash register and pay for it and walk out, and now it belongs to me. Those are kind of the assumptions about how things work. But then let's ask, what are the unasked questions? I think some of the unasked questions are, who made the shirt? Did those people get paid fairly? Why can that shirt be so cheap? Now, I'm going to say that I don't actually know the answers for this particular shirt. But if we start digging and asking these questions, we may find that the people who made the shirt are living somewhere not in the United States, not being paid anything like a fair wage, and being treated pretty badly. And that all of that goes into producing this so that I can simply walk in and buy it without having to think about this. That's an example of ideology. We have certain assumptions. Goods are available to us in stores. We go to purchase them. Underneath of that is the reality of how that shirt gets made and how those things get made. So let's apply this idea to Paula Deen. is it possible that Paula Deen has a set of assumptions about the way that the world works? That white people are superior to other races, and that her behavior reflects that. And, moreover, that this is not an individual failing. This is a cultural failing. This is a failure of the whole system that, at least in Paula Deen's culture, where she grew up in the South over the last 60 years, these are attitudes that are perpetuated by the whole culture, not just by single individuals. This is the idea of systemic evil. This is what we're going to be exploring over the next couple of weeks as we read The Hunger Games and as we read Maus 1 and 2 by Art Spiegelman. And I think this will become much clearer as you read. Spiegelman's books, they're graphic novels. They deal with the Holocaust, which is perhaps the single greatest example of systemic evil that we can imagine. I look forward to working with you as we kind of unpack some of these ideas. I hope that it will be productive for you. In my opinion, this way of speaking about evil is probably the most important thing we can cover this semester because it's the one that we often don't give as much thought to. Look forward to hearing more of your thoughts about it.